Hi, this is Chatterboxing. I'm Sean. This is my prediction video for the Joseph Parker Hughie Fury fight on Saturday night. Saw the press conference yesterday. I said the other week that the promotion for this had been appalling, which it had. I think most people agree with that. They needed to step their game up, primarily Hennessy Promotions, but also Duco as well. But it looks like David Higgins from Duco saw my video and decided to take my advice, because he turned up at the press conference like he'd just been out on a piss all night with Francis Botha, who looked like a sort of washed up WWF wrestler from the 80s. Both of them there looking like they'd been on it all night. Started having a go at Peter Fury, talking about like corruption and stuff like that. He got up, told him to fuck off. It was quite entertaining. He was thrown out of the event, the press conference. So I don't know how that's going to affect Joseph Parker. I mean, I saw him there kind of looking on, a bit bemused by the whole situation. Yeah, well, first of all, let me talk about that. This situation where he's talking about the referee and the judges, there's been a bit of controversy. Now, as far as I understand, I haven't really looked into this much, so if someone can explain to me how there's anything untoward about this, I'd like to know. Because from what I can see, there are going to be 3 judges, one of them from the UK, another one from New Zealand, and another one from somewhere else. Now, that's pretty standard. If that is the case, don't really see what the problem is there. If it's just a case of the referee, I don't know. Whenever I watch world title fights in the UK, it's always neutral judges. I haven't really paid that much attention to see if there's always been a foreign referee. I'm sure like sometimes it has. I don't really know. But what I would say, there's never 3 British judges. So when you say, like for example, when the first Ward Kovalev fight, and Kovalev was saying, I have 3 judges and 1 ref, all from America, then that looks a bit suspect. But if you've got like 1 English referee and 3 judges from different countries, then I don't really see what's the big deal about that. Also, the idea that that's somehow the fault of like Mick Hennessy and the Furies, again, I don't understand that. So if someone can explain this to me, surely the people responsible for choosing the officials are the WBO and the British Boxing Board of Control. So they're the ones who go, I don't see how it could be in a contract for you to do something that you've got no power over. Do you know what I mean? Mick Hennessy and the Furies don't choose the referee, they don't choose the judges. So how could that be in a contract for them to choose the judges and for it to be like a neutral person? So yeah, I think he's, from what I can see, barking up the wrong tree there. I think he should have just contacted the British Boxing Board of Control, which by all accounts is what he was supposed to do. But instead he came in, started ranting and raving at Peter Fury. It looked, don't get me wrong, quite entertaining for me. I thought it was quite funny. And it's good for, putting a bit of a spotlight on the fight, which, has really gone under the radar. But I don't think Joseph Parker was particularly impressed. He looked a bit embarrassed by it. It looked very amateur. It looked like basically some sort of drunk, embarrassing uncle turning up with his mate, like with his kind of, his sort of hard mate. He sort of goes around with, who's about 50, like a sort of pumped up 50-year-old bodybuilder who thinks he's hard. That's what it looked like. So yeah, I don't know how that's going to affect the mind state of Joseph Parker going into this fight. There's obviously been a lot of dodgy stuff going on, a lot of bickering between the two. Now, Mick Hennessy was saying that he was talking about, threatening to take the money and go back to New Zealand because there'd been a breach of contract and all this, that, and the other. Thankfully, that hasn't happened. It looks like we're ready to go, but this has obviously been quite a taxing build-up on everyone mentally. No one seems to have enjoyed working with each other here. Not Hennessy, Duco. Can't be that fun for Hughie and Joseph Parker. Hopefully those two are just kept out of it, focused on the fight, and they can leave everyone else to do all the sort of bickering about referees and stuff like that. Yeah, in terms of the actual fight itself, I think it's going to be a very, very good fight, and I think it's a very underrated fight. A lot of people, no one's really talking about it. You've obviously got you've had the Canelo Golovkin big super fight just now. Wilder Ortiz just been announced, so that's obviously like a big heavyweight fight. Anthony Joshua against Pulev. People aren't that excited about Pulev Joshua because they think Joshua's like the clear favourite, but still, Anthony Joshua is massive in boxing, and everybody's interested. So this fight hasn't really been getting that much attention. I think personally, I'd say it's a 50-50 fight. I'd say Joseph Parker is more proven. He's fought two. I mean, his two best wins are better than Fury's two best wins. I mean, Andy Ruiz was a good win. I think that was he showed quite good composure in that fight. He showed that he can, fight to a game plan and keep his discipline. Now, one thing I like about Joseph Parker is he's quite versatile. I've seen him box on the back foot. I've seen him, he can take it to you with combinations. He's aggressive when he needs to be, but he's also quite measured in his approach. So, yeah, he can do quite a lot of stuff. I mean, Hughie Fury, for me, has looked very, very good. And I haven't seen him fight anyone like as good as that. He was actually going to fight Andy Ruiz before that fight, and Andy Ruiz pulled out because he had some dispute with the manager, or maybe to do with the money or whatever. But Hughie Fury's not had that opportunity. Well, actually, to be fair, he was going to. I mean, I'm sure he was offered to fight Dylan White actually once, and he didn't want to do it. So yeah, he has had a couple of opportunities actually to fight that level. He hasn't done it. He's obviously young. He's had his health problems. So I think now you're going to see a very good Hughie Fury. Joseph Parker in his last fight didn't look very good at all. He looked lackluster. He couldn't really, get anything together. He couldn't really adapt. And he looked a lot worse than he had done in the last couple of fights. Now, I know he's a sparring partner, so that sometimes has an effect. Maybe he just, couldn't really, get into it. He was just in sparring partner mode. And his opponent wasn't really trying to win. His opponent knew what he was going to try and do. And it just was a pretty uneventful fight. But that said, if that had been like Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder, any other check, you'd think they would have dealt with that bloke, like whether he was a sparring partner or not, in a more spectacular fashion. So I do think Joseph Parker is on his way up. I don't think he's the finished article yet. I think him and Hughie Fury are kind of at the same level. I don't know how old Joseph Parker is, but I think he's quite young as well. They've had a similar number of fights. I think Joseph Parker is quicker, like with his hands. He's got fast hands, got fast combinations. Hughie Fury, I think, is the more skillful boxer. He's obviously taller. I think both of them are pretty tough. Neither of them are particularly big punchers. So it could be a knockout, but I don't really see it. I don't see either of these hitting hard enough to knock the other one out, bearing in mind that I see no weaknesses from either of them in terms of their toughness. Hughie Fury, I haven't seen him against big punchers in big fights, but they've said for quite a long time that he's got a really good chin just from sparring and all this. And in sparring with the Furies, they go very hard. And one thing I would say about Hughie Fury, he's had a very good schooling. Now, he's come up, he's a very, very good amateur. He's come up sparring all the time with Tyson Fury, who's, for me, the most skillful heavyweight in the world, hands down. He's also very big. Not only that, Eddie Chambers as well. Eddie Chambers was there for a long time with the Furies. He's another very, very skillful heavyweight. So sparring those two regularly, I think Hughie Fury picked up a lot of tricks and a lot of ring savvy early on in his career. And I think he's been brought up a very good way in boxing terms. He really knows his way around the ring. He can take a beating. He's awkward. I think he's hungry for this now. I think he's been in the shadow of Tyson Fury. And he's quite sort of quiet, humble kind of character. So I don't think he's really going to make a big deal out of that. But I think inside he'd quite like to shine himself. And I think this is his moment. I think this is the most beatable of the champions right now. And I think it's going to go to a 12-round decision. I think Hughie Fury is going to edge it. I think Joseph Parker is going to find it difficult to get close to him. I think Hughie Fury's quick on his feet. He's got very good jab, very good. He's got a reach advantage. He's also got very good head and upper body movement, and not just head and upper body movement for like avoiding punches, but just for never letting your opponent set. Now, Joseph Parker, to me, from what I've seen, he's someone he needs to kind of set his feet before he can let off his combinations. I don't see him as someone who can literally just sort of fly in and out. I think it's going to be quite difficult for him to really set things up on Hughie Fury. Hughie Fury is a constant moving target. You know, even if it's just subtly, you know, his head is just here, it's there, his shoulder dips there, he's pivoting around here. He's just constantly giving you different looks, different angles. And the fact that he's got that reach advantage and the fact that he's taller, I think it's going to be quite hard for Joseph Parker to really land that much on him. I think when he does get in and when he does close the distance, I think Joseph Parker's going to land some good combinations because he's very, very good at that. I mean, in terms of like combination punching, Anthony Joshua is very good at combination punching, and his combinations are more powerful. But in terms of speed, Joseph Parker can really like let rip with them. So if he can, and he can get in and let off a few of them, then I think he can possibly pick up some rounds like that. But I think personally that Hughie Fury is going to frustrate him. I think he's going to be very difficult to hit. I think he's going to out jab him. I think he's going to hit him harder than people are giving him credit for. He's 23 now, so he's starting to grow up a little bit. He's, you know, I've been keeping up with their training camp, and it's, you know, he's been like doing the Carl Froch, chopping up wood, swimming. Do you know what I mean? I think he's going to be in really, really good physical condition, and I think he's going to edge it. I think Parker, from what I've seen, fades a little bit towards the end, especially if he's really forcing the action. And I think Fury could run away with it towards the end of the fight. So that's my prediction. I think that, Fury's going to win on points. Certainly wouldn't be surprised if Joseph Parker won. I think that the Joseph Parker on points is probably the next most likely outcome. Could there be a knockout? It's possible, but I would be surprised. I mean, Joseph Parker to me seems pretty tough. I saw an interview with Kevin Barry when he's saying he's never been knocked down in sparring as an amateur, anything. I believe that. He looks pretty solid. And Hughie Fury as well. I think he's pretty solid as well. As I said, I don't think either of them have got like exceptional power to knock the other one out. Maybe it could be a stoppage, but I don't think so. I think it'll be close though. I think it'll be interesting to see if Joseph Parker does lose, where he goes from here. Will he still stay? Because he's talking about basing himself in the UK. I would hope so. I still think he's got a bright future ahead of him. I just think he's very young in the game, Joseph Parker. He's come along quite quickly because obviously he's got a good fan base. He's got, you know, good like New Zealand fans behind him. Now I've made a few videos about Joseph Parker, and I always get lots of views, lots of comments. So just from that, I can tell that Joseph Parker is quite well supported. So he's been pushed quite quickly. He's fought against a couple of pretty decent opponents quite early on. Got the opportunity to fight for the title, took it, performed very well. I don't understand for the life of me how I keep seeing people saying that like Ruiz was robbed, and I can't see that at all. I think Joseph Parker clearly won that fight. So if he does lose, then I still think, that there's hopefully people don't, hopefully he doesn't now get sort of pushed to the side. I think he can still be a top contender. Still like to see him fight people like Dylan White, Jarrell Miller. There's some good people around, and then from there build up to another title shot. Same goes for Hughie Fury. If he loses, I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. They're both young. I don't think it's going to be like devastating fashion. So yeah, anyway, I'm sort of waffling on a little bit now, so I'll leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching.